like it. So raise your hand right now if you did something good for your team this past weekend playing. Raise your hand. Sam, you better raise that hand because you said you did good defensively. Oh, I think she's paused. That's why. That's why we can't see her. All right. Everybody did. Okay, put your hands down. Everybody did at least one good thing for their team this weekend. Great. Now, write in the chat box what that was. And you can't say the things that you already said. Actually, Kinsey can because she was very specific on our line drives to the outfield. You can, but write down one specific thing that you did well for your team this weekend. That could be defensively, that could be offensively, that could just be your energy, being a good teammate, your mindset was good, you made an adjustment, like whatever it was. How did you help your team this weekend? I'm looking at the chat box now. You guys are just taking your time to write it. That means you probably have a lot of good things to say. I love it. Reese, I got a good hit to start the innings hitting rally. Yes, let's celebrate the person who started the rally. Let's celebrate that because that person is responsible for the energy and the momentum of all of the great hits after. And you started that. That's not an easy position to be in because who knows? Your team might have been, and you know, but I don't. Was your team in a position, Reese, where like things weren't really going well for a while and you needed something like a spark to like get your team going?
Yeah.
Yes. So Reese, you were the spark in that game. Snaps to Reese, at a girl. That's awesome. Cool. We need to celebrate that more. We need to celebrate the rally starters. Love it. Good. That's why also, disclaimer, I don't think I used the word disclaimer correctly, but I'm going to say it anyway. Even if you weren't the one to start the spark, understand that the person who did start the spark needs to be praised for it. Like, let's say you guys have an inning where 5 hitters go in a row and like boom, 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 bunch of hits. Maybe you get to 10 people, whatever. That first person who started the rally deserves some praise. So be that person that goes out of your way to go praise the person who started the rally. Because without that person, you may have not gotten your hit later on in the rally. Does that make sense? Go praise that person. Today we're talking about celebrating yourselves, but we're also talking about how we can celebrate other people too. Perfect. Reese, way to start this off. I love this. All right, Kinsey. When I was catching, I threw down to bases and I got the out. Good. Was it second base? You threw to second and got the out?
It was mostly third.
You threw to third. Was she stealing second or was she leading off a lot?
These girls kept on just running the third, so I just popped up and threw it to third to get the out.
Yes. So you noticed earlier in the game, these girls were running from second to third, and you were like, not on my watch. You learned from the earlier part of the game, and you got that girl out. That deserves to be celebrated. Snaps for Kinsey. Way to go, Kens. Good. You learned from the at-bats before. You learned from those runners before, and you made an adjustment and you got her out. Good job. That's amazing. Let's celebrate these things. All right, Sam said, my mindset was good throughout the week. Even though I was in a hitting slump, I tried to stay positive and do well in the outfield. I love this one. Here's why I love this one, Sam. Because we talked about this before we started recording, but how you do on one side of the game doesn't matter compared to the other. So what I mean by that is if you're not doing well offensively, you took that and you were like, well, you know what? I can still do well on defense. So here we go. Forget the offense. Let's go on defense and show them what I'm made of. So you didn't let your not so great performance offensively dictate your defensive performance. And that deserves to be praised. Snaps for Sam. that deserves to be praised, because a lot of people, what they do is they take the negativity of, let's say, the strikeout, and they let that dictate how they play defensively. And all of a sudden they're bad on both sides of the ball. So I think that's a really, really good thing that you can take away, Sam. And that's good that you thought about that. That, you know, maybe you didn't play or hit your best this weekend, but who cares? Like, it's okay. The fact that you backed up your pitcher on defense was probably enough for your team. And you said earlier you won the championship, right? Your team wouldn't have won the championship without you doing what you did on defense. So I'm here to let y'all know that you're not always going to be perfect offensively. You're always going to be perfect defensively. But you still can do things to help your team win. All right? You can still show up on the other side of the ball and do your thing. All right? Sam, I'm sure we have a one-on-one virtual this week, and we can talk about, you know, how we can shift that mindset of maybe not doing so hot this past weekend and how we can learn from it. I'd love to work on that more one-on-one with you, but I'm very, very proud of you for being able to do well on the other side of the ball and help your team win a championship. Because you may not feel like you helped your team win the championship, but sometimes you have to hear it from somebody else because you did. Now, as athletes, raise your hand if this is you. Don't raise it yet. Don't raise it yet. Raise your hand if this is you. You are your biggest critic. Raise your hand if you think you're your biggest critic. Beautiful. Okay, everybody raise their hands. Same. So I'm going to reshare the story that I told you guys at the beginning. Literally, my game day, which compares to you, because guess what? I don't get to play anymore, and I'm honestly super jealous that you guys do, okay? My version of game day looks like this. It looks like podcast interviews with top guests like Kat Osterman, spoiler alert, she's on the podcast, Monica Abbott, JT Gasso, Sue Inquist, like multiple national champion at UCLA, okay? Big wigs. My game day are those interviews. My game days are getting to do lessons, like getting to do lessons with my athletes, or even like another caliber of like where nerves start to happen when I do clinics or camps. Like I went to Nebraska and did a 2-day camp, and yeah, I was nervous beforehand. So that actually reminds me a lot of games. All right. So those are my version of game days. And I interviewed Kat Osterman last week. No, it was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago. It was literally the day before she left for Tokyo. And I kid you not, I prepared the heck out of that interview. I had 50 questions I wanted to ask. I knew I wasn't going to get to all the questions, but I really wanted to talk about certain things. And right after the interview, I was like, wow, I feel good about this. Like that was so fun. And then the next 2 or 3 days, I was literally in my head going, but I should have asked her this question. I didn't even ask her about this, blah, blah, blah. Like I was literally just nitpicking that quote unquote performance to pieces. And for an entire day, like I think it was either Sunday or Monday, I was like, I suck. I am the worst interviewer. I literally said that to myself. Reese is like looking like this. Like, you said that to yourself? Yes. Like 100%. I did. I said that to myself. And then this morning I was doing some editing because our podcast is going up this week. And I was like, what were you saying? Like, you were so good in this interview. What on earth? So I just want you guys to know that it's okay to kind of feel that way sometimes. But I think what happens with us is we don't celebrate the good things enough to where we put the emphasis or the exclamation point on the things that aren't that good. And therefore it affects our mental state. I told you I had a whole day where I just felt worthless because of that one interview. Now I've done multiple interviews now to where like I know my expectations, and yeah, I felt like I fell short. But again, I'm now sitting today like, what were you thinking, Ashley? I bet you can look at some of your performances that you've had and say to yourself, okay, I wasn't as bad as I thought. I didn't do as bad as I thought. I want you to think of one scenario where you like beat yourself up. not physically, but mentally. Maybe it was after a strikeout. Maybe it was after a game where you were the final out of the game and your team lost and you felt like it was all on your shoulders. Did anybody watch the World Cup of Soccer yesterday? France versus England? Okay, nobody watched it, but let me tell you, that game, I think it was 1-1, and you can't tie, obviously, for the title. So they went into penalty kicks. And I don't know how much you know about soccer, but I don't even know that much about soccer, to be honest. But they had penalty kicks, and they're like, literally, if you make the penalty and the other team doesn't, like, you're up by 1. And then like it was back and forth. Like England, I think, was up in penalty kicks because the other team had or it was Italy who had missed a penalty. And then all of a sudden England missed. And it literally came down to the final penalty kick, and a 16-year-old playing at the World Cup. Okay, these are the best players in the world. And this kid for England was 16 years old. By the way, that's super young compared to these like 30-year-olds that are just like incredibly good at soccer. He missed his penalty kick and they lost, and Italy ended up winning because he missed it. I cried for this kid. I am getting emotional talking about it because this poor kid who's 16 years old was in a situation where it was literally like, you're going to win the entire World Cup or you're going to lose it. You don't win second place. Like, you lose the first place to get second, right? And I guarantee you that kid right now feels like he lost that entire game for his team. Wouldn't you? Wouldn't you feel like you lost the entire game for your team? Yeah. To me, that's probably poor strategy, putting the 16-year-old last. He's really good. Like, he's very good. But like, that type of pressure for a 16-year-old. Now, here's what this 16, I don't even know his name. Here's what he can do about the situation. He can either feel bad about himself the entire next season and play subpar to where his potential is because he lost the last game and he's still living in the past. Or he can take a few days or even a week, sulk about it, feel bad, because I think everybody needs to sometimes feel bad, right? In order to get out of it. Take a few days, feel not so great about it, but then literally look at it as, that will never happen again. Because I've gotten through this, I am now a stronger athlete. I am now a stronger soccer player because that had happened. Which one would you rather take? Scenario 1 or scenario 2? 2, right? It's a lot easier to say than do, though, isn't it? Because here's the deal. If that kid's up against whatever team in the title game, by the way, this is every 4 years they play in this tournament. So he has to wait 4 years before he has that opportunity again. All right. They still play in like their professional seasons. Like, they still have those. But like, to represent your country, that thing's an every 4-year thing. Now this kid is going to be 16, 17, 18, 20 years old when he's probably competing again because he's that good. He's probably going to represent England again. But do you think he's going to go at this because he's a professional athlete? You think he's going to go at it the first way or the second way? The first way being his whole play the next 4 years is going to be awful because of that, or he's going to step into his potential and realize he is now a stronger athlete and live into that and lean into it. I would hope number 2 as well. I would hope number 2, but we don't know that kid, right? Right now, this is the worst day of his life, right? But I hope that he goes for number 2. And I hope that when you have a situation, obviously not that extreme, because we don't exactly have that opportunity unless it's like the Olympics, but y'all are too young to play in the Olympics right now. But that's how we got to think about this. You can either lean into and own the fact that, yes, you were the one who got the last out in that game. Or yes, you were the one who had the error, which made that girl score. You can own it, know that that was you, and take it and go, well, that's not truly what I'm capable of. And lean into it and then show them what you're capable of. You can do this. You physically can, if you set your mind to it. Okay? Now, throughout this entire talk, everybody's been going like, yes, that's me, or oh my gosh, it's like you say that you suck sometimes. Yeah, I do, because I'm human. I know I meet with you guys every single week, but like, if I'm not sharing these things, then what am I doing? You know? But yeah, there are days that I say that I suck. But everybody has those. Like, that's just how humans think. Those people that are competing at the College World Series or in the Olympics, like, those athletes are also saying that too. But if your worst day is better than the second person's best day, then you're fine. Okay? That's why we train as hard as we do. That's why we work as hard as we do. That's why we need to celebrate the little things that we can control. All right? You guys have so much to be proud of. You guys are almost done with your summer seasons already. Hate to break it to you. But you guys have competed all summer, all spring and summer. I need you to spend 60 seconds right now writing down all of the things that you have done this year so far that you are proud of yourself for doing. Ready, set, go. It's been a long year. I'm going to have you keep going. I'm going to add more seconds to this. You just keep going. Let your pencil keep flowing. And honestly, if you need more time, you can keep adding to this later. I'm going to give you 15 more seconds. Good. Finish up your last one. All right. How good does it feel to have just written down all the things that you've done so well so far this year? How good does it feel? I'm getting some thumbs up. I love it. It should feel good. Now, I feel like this practice is probably best for Sam right now because she went into this conversation saying, it wasn't that great of a weekend, but they still won the championship. Sounds like you just need to celebrate some of the things you've already done to uplift your spirits and help you realize that weekends like this are allowed. Weekends where you don't perform offensively are allowed. Same thing with defensively. But if you look at every performance of a, end of the world, then I don't know if you'll have a great weekend next weekend. But if we talk about the things that we've done great and we go over the things that we want to improve from this past weekend, we're going to feel a lot better stepping into our next tournament. All right? Feels good to write that stuff down. I don't think I do this practice enough. Honestly, we're going to finish this conversation and I'm probably going to whip out my notebook and write down all the things that I've done well because last week, I'm just like sharing the whole world with you. Last week, I didn't have a great week because I did not realize how far I've come in the past year. I was so harsh to myself last week. Just about because one little thing got to me. And maybe it's because of all the wedding planning and I just bought a house and there's just like all these other things happening to where I forgot where I've come. I forgot how far I've come. I forgot that I've worked really, really hard to get here. And I'm allowed to have moments where I grieve or where I don't feel like I've done enough. But I'm telling you, the practice that you just did is literally the roadmap to start feeling good again if you ever need it. Some of you may feel like you're on top of the world right now, and this practice was great, but like you didn't feel like it really hit you as hard as it could someone else. But realize that we all go through different seasons of life, of our careers. We all have super high moments and we all have super low moments. But if we live in the super high or we live in the super low, we are living in emotion rather than living in our potential, which is like the middle. Okay? We want to meet ourselves in the middle. We want to celebrate the good and we want to get ourselves out of the bad. But remember, before the good happened, you had to do things prior to that to make something good happen. Okay? In order to have that 4-for-4 game or that weekend that you just crushed it, in order to have that, it didn't just happen. Tinkerbell didn't just put fairy dust on you. You prepared. You journaled. You do whatever you do prior, but you prepared. You put in the work prior to that. And that's why you got your incredible weekend. So this goes along with what I wanted to talk about next, was like leaning in to where you are. All right. So for that kid that lost that game in the World Championships of soccer, do you think he needs to just go practice tomorrow or today? Or do you think he needs to just take some time for himself for a second? What do you think? Second one, take some time for himself. Yes. Because he can't just go back and pretend like it didn't happen, because it did. All right. And he's got to lean into that. He's got to rediscover himself. He's got to get himself out of it. And sometimes that means stepping away from practicing and playing to realize where he is. So then he can find his motivation to get back to practicing and get back to his team and get back to winning in 4 years. I know it's a long time, but it's just life. All right. Now, think about the team that won that game, Italy. Do you think they should just go back to practice today, or should they lean into celebrating and like embracing the moment and enjoying themselves and each other? Yes. Number 2 again. They can't just go back and pretend like it didn't happen. They will at some point, because they need to do what they did last year in order to, or yeah, the past 4 years in order to do and win the championship they won this year. But they need to lean into the good. They need to lean into that celebration. So that's what I'm going to challenge you guys with this week is I want you to lean into wherever you are right now. Whether you're playing your best softball right now or you're not. Lean into that and try to like understand why that's happening. Why are you crushing it right now? Okay, well, I just practiced 4 times this week. I met with my hitting coach. I worked really hard at home. I journaled after every session, like whatever. Understand why you're doing well. And then same thing with maybe the not so great. Try to pinpoint why you're not doing that well. Because if we just try to move on and pretend like it didn't happen, we will not grow from this. Okay? Lean into where you are. That might be like the quote of the day. Lean into where you are. If you're not doing great offensively or defensively, why are you not doing that great? Is it your mental game? Is it your physical game? And yes, you have coaches and parents that can help you answer this question. And that's the fun part about it. We have people around us that can help us get out of it. But understanding why will unlock your keys to the kingdom. Okay? I can help you with this. You guys are all members of Smash Tribe. We can literally book a call and get to the bottom of it. But there's a bunch of us on this call right now, so we can't lean into everybody. But if you want, a virtual one-on-one where we just talk and we just dig deep into where we are and how we can either grow from the good or grow from the bad, wherever you are, we can help I can help get you out of it. It's basically what I'm saying. but use the people around you to help you as well. Okay? Lean into it.